Hey there, Brad Johnson from johnson.audio. I'm here to talk to you today about how to record a song from start to finish. This is a very big topic. I'm not going to get into all the nuts and bolts in this video about all the different parts. This video is for you if you're a songwriter and you're thinking about recording, or you're trying to figure out, you just bought a DAW, you have a microphone, you're doing recording, you're just trying to figure out the whole process, the whole thing that seems like voodoo to you. I hope that this video kind of just show you how a professional record gets made. Really, you can look at the recording process broken down into 6 parts. You're going to be looking at the very first part, which is going to be songwriting. So it's just sitting down with your guitar or your piano or your lyric book and just writing out the song itself. Like, that is, ground zero, and that seems obvious. You have to have a song before you can record anything. So step 1 is just actually getting the song finished. Big part about this particular area, though, is that you don't necessarily need to have a complete song to start the rest of the process. It helps, but sometimes if you just have a really good, if you have the structure in place, but you don't really necessarily have the lyrics yet, or you're still kind of struggling with some of the words, it's okay to move on to the next part of the process, and maybe just doing la-di-da-di-das or oohs and whatever to just kind of fill in the gaps, and maybe later inspirational strike and you can kind of revise it. It's totally fine. It is good to try to have as much done before moving forward, especially if you're putting money into somebody else to help you out with the rest of the process. The more you have in the very beginning figured out, the more smooth and less time it'll take down the road. So it's always good to try to have as much as you can done, but again, you don't necessarily have to have everything complete in this particular part of the process. Also, with this part of the process, this is where I believe, in my experience, where all the best ideas are born and die. It's so easy as songwriters to just kind of write something, you kind of like it, and then you just shove it underneath the rug, or just something. You get self-conscious, you get insecure, and this is where not writing by yourself is really important. Bringing other people into the process can really help you. To kind of just push you along and make you not second guess yourself or overthink or overanalyze. So keep those things in mind for this very first part. And so once you have your song completed, we're going to move on to stage 2, which is going to be the pre-production process. And this is going to be a little different than the songwriting process, because really the songwriting process, if you can just do analog, so to speak. You don't need to do any kind of recording or any kind of layering or dressing of the song. This is where pre-production comes in. And you're looking at pre-production as being the blueprint for the rest of the recording. This is kind of like the demo part, but it's a little bit more than a demo, because we're not just scratching out vocals and a basic instrument. We're going to start layering stuff on top of it to kind of start building out the vibe of the song and start knowing what the drums are going to do, bass, synths, vocals, harmonies, background vocals, that kind of stuff. You start getting that idea and start really turning those gears. It's going to be happening in the pre-production process. And this is something that the songwriter could do if you are someone who has a DAW and you have a laptop and you're able to kind of play around in Logic or Pro Tools or Ableton or Reason or whatever you're using. You could start, if you have that arrangement in mind, you can start to put that stuff together to give a blueprint to then give later on down the road to the other people that are going to come on board to help you finish this record. This will give them the vision. You have to be able to communicate that vision to people, and so they can come in and do their thing and help support the song that you're creating. It's all about serving the song. So in the pre-production process, this could be done by somebody else that's an arranger, or it could be done by you. It just really depends. We can talk. I'm going to talk later in later videos, kind of like I feel like the personalities that fit within all these pieces, and a really good production has a person designated to all these parts. But right now, we're going to stick to just the game plan of just giving you the 10,000-foot view of what a professional recording looks like and how it gets done. So once you have everything mapped out, again, in this particular place, you don't have everything perfect. You just have ideas. So like if it's a bass, maybe you just do like a sustained bass note because you just want the bass player just to kind of just play, quarter notes or whatever, or you might have it that, like you're just playing eighth notes, you want the bass to be a little more driving. It doesn't have to be exactly the bass part. It's just given the idea, like what is it you want the bass to be like, so that way it's in the blueprint, people can hear it, they get the idea, and then they can go from there. Same with drums. You don't need to have the perfect drum patterns laid out. You just need to have what kind of drums are you looking for. Are you looking for, like a shuffle beat? Are you looking for more just like a straight rock beat, 4 on the floor, whatever? Just want to put that in your blueprint just to start rounding out those ideas. Same with keys and stuff. You can just kind of start layering out some basic pads, maybe some little melodies and stuff here if you like it, but you don't need to go crazy. It's just, again, just getting the ideas out there. So once you have the blueprint, this is where you're going to get into the third part, which is going to be actually recording the music. This is where you're going to start laying down the stuff that you're going to keep to the very final end, and you're going to use the pre-production blueprint to make this happen. And I always encourage and recommend that if you're trying to be if you're a songwriter or you're going into recording, you need to have a team. You need to start working with people within this to see this process through to the end and actually make a good record. And you can check out my video on how to be a producer, and it talks about how a producer can really help you through every stage of this process. And so you can check that out. I'll put a link down below. But yeah, so with the recording process, this is where you're going to start finding your musicians, and you're going to give them that blueprint, and we're going to record. This is where this is when you hear about recording and you see people in the studio and everything. This is this part of the process. So you're going to find your drummer and you're going to find your bass players and all those people. If you're in a band, you already got those people. It's great. And once they hear the blueprint, this is where you can kind of communicate some of the vision, but it's good to then let them kind of use their strength and what they do to bring that to the table. So if you have a good drummer, you'll understand the patterns and kind of let him just start working with it, embellishing it, and you're going to get a better end result with it. Same with the bass, guitars, everything. You just kind of want to allow people to start to breathe in this particular part of the process. This is where everything comes to life. This is the most important part, is capturing the right performances. And you can't fix stuff down the line. There's always this idea of fixing the mix, and with editing and stuff, that's true, you can do it, but you don't really want to rely on that. You want to get just solid performances right out the gate. So getting the right people to listen to your blueprint and have that and deliver is really important. And the same thing with having a great engineer at this point. This is where an engineer comes in, sets up the microphones. I really highly recommend trying not to do this part on your own. If you're a songwriter or a band, it's really good to have a designated engineer to keep the session moving smoothly. It's really hard to flip between an engineer brain and then a performer brain just on the fly. It's really tough. It's hard to keep the creativity going. It's easy to get down and just kind of quit. I've been in this position many times, and I do not recommend it. I really do believe that the best work is done in team, and it's easier to get stuff done when you have somebody who's working the software, the computers, and the mics, and the preamps, and all this stuff. If there's outboard gear working, all that, and you don't have to worry about it, and you can just stay in that creative zone. Or if you're an engineer, it's your duty to keep the artist in that zone. Know your stuff. Make sure things run smoothly. Make sure there's no hiccups, so that way things get done in a timely manner and the creativity and everything stays high. And so once you're out of the recording process, you're going to start to move into editing. And before I go into editing, this kind of can blend a little bit with the recording process, because I highly recommend, and I've seen big producers work this way, that once you record the drums, you want to edit the drums. And we'll get into a future video about beat detective and all that stuff, and if it is good for your music, if it's bad for your music, to suck the energy and life out of the performance and all that. We can talk about that later. I have my opinions. But right now, I would say that so it's really good sometimes if you're thinking about, if you're going to edit your drums and you're going to make them perfect to the grid, it's good to do that after the drummer plays, so that way all the other musicians can come and lay their tracks down over the final drums. That way, when you go in later and you're editing drums, not everything else doesn't come off because there was they were playing to the rush track or dragging track or the influxes. So in the editing, you're going to do all your vocal comping, so you're going to find all the best takes for your vocals. You're gonna do your vocal editing, all your tuning. You're gonna start doing all your tuning and aligning and all that kind of stuff. Again, you should have a really solid performance. That's definitely what you're looking for out the gate. So you don't have to do too much editing, but a little editing is going to be necessary. Again, I'm going to talk about tuning in later videos. I'll show you how to tune and how to do it transparently, because one of the biggest things that I hear about tuning is, it doesn't sound natural, and you can hear it's tuned and it sounds like T-Pain, and like if you're doing like a folky indie rock band that super just raw, and that you just want to keep that organic vibe to the stuff, you want to make sure that you're tuning your music, you're tuning the vocals transparently, and I'll show you how to do that. There's a good way to do it, and I highly recommend doing it to all tracks, because it just makes it sound in tune. Like, people who are listening to the song are just they'll think it sounds good. And so and also with editing, you got the drums, and then any other little things that you might need to fix, maybe some guitar comps and just little things here and there, just to make sure everything in all the tracks is perfect and ready for mix. Which takes us to the next part of this process, which is the mixing process. And the mixing process, the best way to do it is to give all your tracks. At this point, if you've been from the songwriting through the pre-production to the recording, editing, if you've been involved in all this, it's really good to get somebody else to mix your song, because they're going to have fresh ears. They're going to have, they'll have a fresh perspective on how to take the song and embellish it and start to make it breathe and be a record. And if you've already been living in it for too long, it's going to be hard to kind of make those decisions that will benefit the track, and you might end up ruining. You can ruin a song easy in this point of the process. But with mixing, you also don't want to deliver tracks that haven't been edited to a mixer. A mixer is not an editor. They're different. So, you should have all your tracks. The editor is going to make sure all the tracks are ready for that mixer to put it into their DAW, and they're there to just make that song just work. And so that, with the mixer is balancing all the tracks. That's the primary job. Balance tracks, make it sound good. You got to think of it like they're the painter in a house. Like they're dressing it up. They're making it so when people walk in to this production, they feel like they're listening to a song, they're listening to an experience. And then so from the mixing standpoint, once the mix is done, that is when you throw it into the last phase 6, which is going to be mastering. Mastering is kind of like one of those dark arts. Most people, I think, get really confused by it. There's a lot of stuff out there about it. It's really just kind of like the polish coat. It's like really taking everything the mixer did and then just getting it to be just right for release. So that way, when you listen to it against other tracks, it doesn't sound like it's quieter level or really just off. It's just to make sure to put on that final little coat of polish, just to get it to just pop, sparkle, and just be that record where you release it and it sounds like an album. And mastering is one of those things that it's a very highly specialized skill. It takes specialized tools. We have great tools now in the digital domain to where you could master your own stuff. But again, I recommend giving it to somebody who has not heard anything yet with the whole entire thing, and let a dedicated mastering engineer take care of that. And they're not that expensive, if you're doing a full album, it can run you a little bit of money, but it's worth it in the end. And so then once you're mastered, you have your final tracks. So that is really the 10,000 foot view. I did dive a little bit deeper into some of it, but I will go deeper into each particular process in later videos. But in this video, I just wanted to give you that 10,000 foot view of the whole entire process. So to recap, you're looking at 6 steps, 6 parts of the process. And it's good to kind of compartmentalize yourself and know where you are in each particular, where you are in the recording process, so that way you can work effectively and efficiently. So you're going to be in the songwriting phase, the pre-production phase, you have the recording phase, editing phase, mixing phase, and mastering phase. There's really, that is going to be the process, start to finish, of how to record a song. I hope you got something from this. I hope it started to get some gears turning if you haven't had a chance to think about this. If you've been through this a million times, maybe I missed something, so leave me a comment below, let me know, or let me know if, they have any questions. I'd love to hear from you. I can't wait to dive deeper into each part of the process and even start showing you some of the things that I've learned throughout the years to help you start producing and making songs that you are proud of and wanting to share. Happy to be on this journey with you. Have a great day. Take care.